गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांता स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरु दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवं श्री चैतन्य ईश्वरम्। Hare Krishna. So hope all of you are doing well and you are excited to enter into the next section of Bhagavad Gita. And before we go there, here we are sharing the poll and we request you to read the questions carefully and mark the correct answer. Remember, this is in context with the last session, what we have already covered. So here comes the questions on your screen. Take your time and mark the correct answer.
And those who are watching on Zoom, you will have
YouTube.
the poll. Oh. You will have the poll option. Actually, mark your answer.
Those of you who have completed your quiz, kindly mark your attendance. We have shared the attendance link at the chat window.
It has to be done once during the session.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. So here we are sharing the result of the poll for question number 1. Body is temporary and the lamentation for bodily discomfort is useless because body is temporary. So what will be gained by lamenting about the discomforts in the body? That is how it is designed to be.
The amazing verse gives 9 different aspects. So C is the right answer.
The amazing nature of the soul can be easily understood by the grace of the Supreme Lord under the guidance of a bona fide devotee. So this statement is true and this forms the foundation of acquiring transcendental knowledge.
Which of the following is not the duty of a Kshatriya? And the right answer is option B.
Though it may sound like that is the duty, but that is actually not the duty. The duty is to give protection. For that, they can use violence and they have to rule as per dharma.
Swadharma refers to duties towards the body, and Sanatana Dharma refers to duties towards the soul. So D is the correct option.
If Arjun fights, then he would gain irrespective of his winning or losing the battle. Interestingly, this is a true statement because that is what Krishna establishes, that if you will win, you will enjoy. If you will lose, you will enjoy in heavenly planets.
If Arjuna does not fight, then he will incur sin. So that is the right answer.
Krishna tells Arjun that if he does not believe in Vedas, yet he need not lament for the death. And the correct answer is true because we heard that Krishna was talking about that, and Srila Prabhupada writes there in the purport that if the body is composed only of the chemicals, then who cries at the loss of some liters of chemicals?
Chanting, reading scriptures and preaching are duties towards the soul. So B is the right option. So those of you who have got all the right answers, I would like you to type in the chat that you got all the right answers.
Anyone there who got all 9 on 9? Okay, yes, Ishita Mahalakshmi got one wrong. Jay Shri, Pratibha Vikram,
Prabhita. And then, yes,
Lakshmi
it was
Kumar Singh, Srinivas,
Uma.
Good. So many of you got right answers, all right answers, and we are very sure that after this quiz, everyone will get the right answers if this quiz is conducted again. Great. So now let us proceed towards the chapter. We will get into the next series of verses. So we were in the third section of chapter 2 where we were discussing about the 2 duties. The last session we concluded when we were in detail talking about how we need to balance these 2 duties and how the focus, we are basically focused on one of the 2 duties where we take care of the body and we take care of everything associated with the body. So our family members, our society, our community, our boss, everything actually is in context to our body. But what about me as a soul? So that is Sanatan Dharma. So this is what section we are dealing with. So let's proceed with shloka number 39. Hato va prapsyasi swargam jitva va bhokshase mahim tasmat uttishta kaunteya Yuddhaya krita nishchayaha.
Thus far, I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Pritha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. So till now, Krishna had explained in terms of analytical knowledge. He was explaining and giving so many qualities of soul. And so that was really wonderful. And now Krishna is saying that now I'll explain in terms of how we should work without desire for fruitive results. So Krishna is beginning to explain about Nishkam Karma Yoga. So he will explain that in the further verses. And by doing that, what Krishna is saying, what is the result? Why one should work without desire for the fruit, right? With desire for the result of our actions, why we should do that? So Krishna says, if you work like that, then you can free from the bondage of work, which means we'll become free from the actions, reactions to our karma. So whatever actions we have done in the past, we become free from them.
नेहाभिक्रम नाशो अस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पम अप्यस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात्. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So now Krishna is talking about in this endeavor. So which endeavor is he referring to? What is this endeavor? So in the last class, we were talking about Swadharma and Sanatan Dharma. So Krishna is referring here to Sanatan Dharma, the duties towards our soul. So two types of duties: duty towards our body. No matter how hard I try, no matter how perfect I try to become, but when I die, everything is left behind and I have to start everything from the beginning. So if in this lifetime, if I attain a PhD and then I die and I take another birth and I again start from ABC. I do not start from PhD, I start from ABC. And here it is talking about that in this endeavor. So if I come to a certain standard in my spiritual life in this lifetime, let's say I have not achieved perfection, but let's say whatever requires to be perfect, I achieve say 50% of that. So in the next lifetime, I start with 51%. I do not start with 0%. And that is why he's saying that there is no loss or diminution. It does not decrease. Whatever spiritual piety we earn, it does not decrease by the changing of body also. And the second point, it is mentioned here that it can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Now, what is the most dangerous type of fear? So just to make you understand, like we stay very close to the ocean and very frequently evenings, generally we go to the ocean, we take a walk there. So while we walk, we see like almost unlimited number of crabs roaming there on the sand. So now can you imagine the life of the crab? Now there is a soul inside that body also. And all what it does is getting in the ocean and coming out and getting in again and then washed away by the waves. It goes again and then comes out and inside and outside. So that is what happens throughout the life. That is most dangerous type of fear. What if I get a body of a crab? What if I get a body of a rat or a insect or a worm in the stool? So that is the greatest threat, that as of now I have acquired this human life, but what is the guarantee that I will not glide down to the lower species of life? So that Krishna is telling that if we endeavor on this path, on Sanatan Dharma, then we would never go back to those forms of life.
So endeavor that we act in a way that we, for the satisfaction of the Lord, for pleasing Krishna, and without expectation of any benefit for myself. So this is like a very high standard. So this is the standard that we should aspire for. That whatever acts we do, we try to please the Lord, satisfy the Lord, and not really expect benefit for my own self. So what will happen is, if I act in this way, whatever spiritual advancement I make, it will never be lost. So like for example, we keep money in the bank, and if the bank shuts down, then the government, even if we have 1 crore in the bank, I don't know, the current government regulations, only 1 lakh or 5 lakh is what you will get. Everything else will get lost. So, but here, by doing this endeavor, we are putting our money in a permanent bank account, spiritual bank account. This is spiritual wealth that we gain, and it never gets lost. And it has a permanent effect. And as Sukiti was explaining, it protects us from greatest fear. This human form is the form which has the most evolved intelligence. We see that that is not the case with the animals or lower species. Their intelligence cannot really match the intelligence of a human being, right? So this is the best form within the various species in this universe. So if I don't act this way, then I may glide down. But if I act in this way, I get protection. This is like the insurance against that fear of gliding down into the lower species.
So 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results. so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%. Whereas in material activity, without 100% success, there is no profit. Actually, there is this famous saying in Hindi, they say, Jo jeeta wahi sikandar, which means that you have to achieve 100% to be a winner. So that is how material mathematics works, that unless you achieve 100%, you are still a failure. Unless you come first, you are still second. So like that. So you have to achieve 100% here. But in spiritual life, it is not like that. So whatever little progress we are making, Krishna is very, very appreciative of that. And Krishna appreciates that so much. He recognizes that so much that he guarantees that you would not glide down to lower species of life.
For example, if you join a medical college, you do first year very good, you do second year excellent results, but then you are not able to continue in the third year for whatever reason, then all your efforts put in the first and second year are waste. So unless you complete the 4 years and then you do 1 year of internship, unless you actually get your MBBS degree, and not just that, you get the license, you get recognized by the government that yes, you are now licensed to practice medicine. The whole effort, you may have put a lot of effort, but unless that is reached, it not really bear any fruit.
व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धिर्
एकेह गुरुनंदन बहुशाखा हि अनंताश्च बुद्धयो व्यवसायिनाम्. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. So here what is discussed is, this is a very significant verse, and it explains that how one-pointed intelligence is required for success. So those who accept the one Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who decide that they will dedicate this one life in his service, they practice devotional service with all their sincerity and heart and all their seriousness. For them, the purpose is resolute. Come what may, they continue to progress in spiritual life. And others, who do not really have that kind of faith in the Supreme Lord, who do not really accept the process of devotional service, and who may accept not just one but many gods, and so many that they have to please so many personalities to get their work done, then their intelligence is irresolute and many branched. So they do not really have a lot of determination, right? Their determination is very weak. So they do not have determination to successfully advance in spiritual life.
So here we see that almost 45 of you are here on the Zoom with us. Not sure how many of you are watching there on YouTube, but I want you to write down one thing in the chat window there. Can we open chat for everyone?
Yes.
So can you write down one answer there, that what is your most valuable asset? Now you all may have lots of assets. So what is the most valuable asset which a person can possess, or what you possess? Can you write it down there in the chat window? Okay, hard work, prayers, relationship, time, patience, knowledge, education. Oops, it's sliding too fast. Krishna deity, my faith in God, character, family, memories, service to humanity, patience, home,
God's blessings,
happiness, service in Krishna consciousness,
life
soul and
itself.
mind, life itself. Okay, great. So you are all, I hope that you firmly believe in what you are writing, that is your most valuable asset. Now what Krishna is telling in this particular verse, what is the most valuable asset? Krishna is telling focus. We have heard about focus. So Krishna is telling focus. So if it is your devotional life, like some of you were writing my Gopal ji or my deities or Hare Krishna Mahamantra, if it is your devotional life, some of you were writing relationships, if it is your relationship, some of you were writing about service to humanity, so voluntary service, anything, any of these things, unless we have focus, we don't achieve the result. That is what verse number 41 is telling here, that resolute in purpose and one aim, vyavasayatmika buddhi, single-minded focus, no diversion, no distraction, just focusing on one thing. Now that one thing, according to Krishna, of course, is devotional service. But unless we are focused here, so today we were going through these statistics. So like we saw that almost 800 people joined for this course, and say what 7-8 weeks later now we have 250, around 250 attending these course. So what is happening is, though we come and join the course with great enthusiasm, but then in somewhere we lose our focus. So now previous verse and this verse, these two are very, very important and significant verse. So previous verse, Krishna was telling any progress in this path and there is no loss or diminution. And in this verse, Krishna is telling one has to be focused on this path. So I must congratulate all of you that you have joined this course, which shows your interest in spirituality and in understanding Bhagavad Gita through a bona fide parampara. So that is fantastic. Please be focused and don't get distracted. That is my request to all of you. So let's see what is the insight. How do we understand this verse?
So what happens is, when we read Bhagavad Gita and we study and we learn under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, so we come to know about the knowledge of soul. The knowledge of soul leads us to knowledge of God as well. And this knowledge of soul, God and his energies, this knowledge helps us develop faith in Krishna consciousness, that if I become Krishna conscious, if I become God conscious, if I develop my loving feelings and loving affection for the Supreme Lord, then I will achieve all perfection. So that faith, by all this study of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, chapter 2, we will continue reading till chapter 18. The whole purpose is that we come to this faith, that if I dedicate myself to Krishna, if I dedicate myself to Krishna consciousness, I will achieve all perfection. Nothing else is required to be done. So if I achieve that faith by study of Bhagavad Gita, then I will receive this resolute determination in spiritual life. Then nothing can shake me from this path.
So resolute determination in Krishna consciousness, because irresolute leads to many branch. So here I am reminded of that story when Dronacharya calls all his disciple and he asks his disciple to shoot the eye of the bird. And then he started calling Duryodhan and Yudhishthir and everyone one by one. They were coming, and before they could actually shoot, Dronacharya would ask that, what can you see? So someone said, I can see the beautiful tree on which the bird is sitting. And Dronacharya said, okay, next, don't shoot. And then next one would come and he would see that I can see the bird, the beautiful feathers, and I'm just focused on that. And Dronacharya would say, no, okay, next. So like that, he was calling each and every disciple, and he was getting a little like disappointed towards the end. And then finally he calls Arjuna. And then Arjun, when he picks up his bow and arrow, and Dronacharya asks him, what can you see? And Arjuna replies, I see the eyes of the bird. And Dronacharya starts asking that what about his feather? What about his legs? What about that branch on which he is sitting? And Arjun said, sorry, but I am not able to see anything because I am just seeing the eye of the bird. And that made Arjuna his favorite disciple, because that is the amount of vyavasayatmika buddhi or focus which is required.
So similarly, if I understand that my loving spiritual, transcendental, loving, devotional service to Lord is my prime duty. As a spirit soul, it is my prime duty, it is my only desire, and it is my only responsibility. So right now I may not feel like that, but if that is our goal, that someday I can actually dedicate my entire life for the Lord, then that becomes the resolute determination in Krishna consciousness. And of course, if we are not so dedicated, then our mind will go into 100 directions, and we'll see in the next verse that how people are not sincere in spiritual life.
So strong faith that Krishna consciousness will elevate one to highest perfection of life is Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. That is the real focus which is required. That faith that only if I follow this process, I'll sooner or later I will attain highest perfection of life.
And this is one of the most important life lessons you'll come across in entire Bhagavad Gita. Yam imam pushpitam vacham prapadanti avipashchitaha vedavarata partha nanyad astiti vadinaha kamatmanah swargapara janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesha bahulam yogaishwarya gatim prati. Men of small intelligence are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. So first, Krishna is explaining people, begins to explain what kind of people are irresolute. They do not have determination to progress in bhakti or to progress in Krishna consciousness. Who are those people? So first is Krishna saying men of small intelligence or less intelligent.
Knowledge.
Men of small knowledge or less knowledge. And why is that? Why? Because they are so much attached to the words of Vedas. So Vedas is like mother, like a child. If a parent has few children, some are very interested in studies, right? They want to study nicely. They are very sincere and they want to grow. And some just want to play and they are not interested in studies at all. So the mother has to deal with both kinds of children. So here we have men who are not interested in spiritual life, who are not interested in solving their problems of birth, death, old age and disease. So what happens for them? Vedas give, okay, if you do this activity, you can go to heavenly planets and enjoy for some time. If you do this, you can be born as a king, but for some time. If you do this particular yajna or homa or this particular sacrifice, then you can gain a lot of power, but again for some time. So, but they are not worried that this all gains are temporary. They just want that fruit. So for them, Vedas also provide, certain sacrifices to be done. So that is what is mentioned here. Krishna is saying, being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say there is nothing else in Vedas. So they completely ignore the part of Vedas which talks about liberation, going to, completely ending the cycle of birth and death and going to the spiritual world. These men of small knowledge do not recognize that at all.
So actually here it is a surprising, it's mentioned elevation to heavenly planets. Now we need to understand that we are talking about heavenly planets, Svargalok, which many of us wants to go, but actually this Svargalok is also within this material world. So heavenly planets or Svarg is not Vaikuntha. It's not spiritual world. There is a difference between heaven and Svarg. Svarg is better facility in this material world itself. Like if somebody is from a very poor country and he starts desiring only if I go to America, only if I get a visa of America and I'll be like very happy because there are better facilities to enjoy compared to my country. So similarly, we are living on earth and we can aspire to go to heaven because there are better facilities. But then just like the birth, death, disease, old age, all these problems of life is here. Just that the life is temporary here. So even in heaven, the life is temporary. We do not go there for permanent settlement. We go there and we come back. Visa expires there also. So that is why Krishna is writing here heavenly planets. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So now in this verse, Krishna is talking about those people who actually, who are weak in their determination, who do not have this focus. So we can understand this by common sense also. Krishna is telling two things, Bhog and Ashwarya. Bhog means intense tendency to enjoy. They want to enjoy the world. And second is
Life is all about eat, drink, and be merry. And don't come in between me and my enjoyment.
so too attached to sense enjoyment. And second, he's telling Aishwarya or material opulence. So they want bungalows, they want jewelries, they want like everything best, opulence, gold, and other things. So what happens is in our life, if we see these sense enjoyment, these things of sense enjoyment, like what, like going to a pub, like for example, partying with friends, often partying with friends who are non-devotees. So things like these, and then this desire to hoard more and more and more money, these are actually distractions. So when we are into bhog and ashwarya, when we want to enjoy and when we want to gather lots of material opulence, we will not be desiring to progress spiritually. So that is what Krishna is telling here.
So these verses describe basically who are weak in their determination. So if we have some of these, so we have to overcome these obstacles. Similarly, if we will notice that others around us who have these tendencies, they'll also not be interested in Krishna consciousness. How many of us are actually interested in devotional service? You know, what is the population of the earth? It's more than 6 billion people. How many of them are interested? Why? Because of these reasons. So there are these karma kandis, they're attached to material benefits. They just want to improve their material life after life. So that is what their goal is. And Krishna calls them less intelligent or less knowledgeable. And then those who cannot have qualification for determination, who are disqualified, those are always after bhoga and aishwarya. Bhog aishwarya. Right? So their life revolves around this. How much I can enjoy, how much opulence can I collect and keep it with me. So they are actually disqualified from spiritual life. So they will continue in the cycle of birth and death.
Krishna tells that less intelligent people aspire for elevation to heavenly planets. Make a note and strike off heaven from your desired destination after death. So if we are intelligent, we would not desire for heavenly planet, we would desire for Golok Vrindavan. Trigurnya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryogakshema Atmavan Yavan Artha Udapane Sarvatah Samplutodake Tavan Sarveshu Vedeshu Brahmanasya Vijanataha. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjun, become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. So now Krishna is talking about something called the three modes of material nature. Traya Gunya Vishaya Veda, the three modes of material nature. So now these three modes, I'm sure majority of you have attended our Gita Made Easy sessions, which is 18 days, 18 session course on Bhagavad Gita. So there in the 14th chapter, we dealt in much detail. The title itself of the 14th chapter is the three modes of material nature. So we have explained you that these three modes are like the coverings on the pure consciousness, what our soul possesses. So these three modes could be goodness, passion, and ignorance. We will discuss this in detail when we reach to those chapters. But as of now, Krishna is telling that become transcendental to these three modes. So these three modes are like shackles which binds us to the material world. And Krishna is telling that become transcendental or rise above these three modes.
All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. So this is very interesting. In the villages at earlier times when the life will revolve around wells. So there used to be one well where people will use it after the nature's call. They will use that well, and there'll be another well for drinking water. Many times that would be the case. But if that village is close to a large lake, then what will happen is all these activities can be performed right at the lake. So one does not have to go from one well to another well. Similarly, we may, aspire to worship different kinds of personalities. Like there are different devatas. We may want to worship them because one devata can give me one benefit, second devata can give me second benefit, third devata gives me third benefit. And if I don't worship all of them, some of them may become angry with me and they may create trouble for me. Well, so they are like small, small wells. One well can give you one type of water, second well can give you second type of water for different uses. But if you go to the lake, which is the supreme personality of Godhead, to whom all these devatas report, Supreme Lord is the reporting head of all the devatas. Like we have a minister, cabinet ministers, but above them is the prime minister. Right. So a railway minister can only take decisions regarding railways. Finance minister can take decisions regarding finance, but prime minister can take decisions regarding any topic, regarding any issue. So similarly, Supreme Lord is the all-powerful personality. So we don't really have to go from well to well. We just directly approach the lake, and all the purposes are served. So similarly, all the purpose of Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. So the purpose of the Vedas is to revive our eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. We are part and parcel of the Lord, and we have forgotten that relationship. And the main purpose of Vedas is to revive that loving relationship. And if you see, that is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is the essence of Vedas.
So here we have also written that leave the karma kandi rituals. So what is karma kandi? So we need to understand so that we are settled with this once and for all. So karma kanda means like there are certain sections in the Vedas which would give you immediate result for your material life, basically, for having a more comfortable material life. So you need not necessarily worship the Supreme Lord to acquire those benefits. Those are small, small things, but then we need to understand that all these things, because it is material, it is all temporary. So we get it for a very little while. So it is just like, for example, if there is a prisoner who is in the jail, and then what best facility he could get if he's staying in the jail. So if the jailer is pleased with this prisoner, then maximum, instead of 2 chapatis, he can get 4 chapatis. Right? Or instead of staying in a room with 40 people, he can stay in a room with 10 people. But still staying in the jail is a trouble. And he still has to stay there. So karma kandi rituals are something like that, that we are doing small little things to please some Devi Devata, and they give us some result, which is again very short-lived. So I pray for certain things and I may get that, but then that thing may bring its own set of sufferings associated with that. So Krishna is telling that leave these karma kand, leave these small, small wells and come to me, who's like this huge lake. I'll fulfill all your desires. You don't have to go here and there at 10 different places.
Like that prisoner approaching the president and appealing to him, and the president may actually sign his release from the jail. The jailer cannot do. The jailer cannot release the prisoner, but the president can. So similarly, the Supreme Lord has he is all powerful. He can actually release one from the jail of the material world and say, hey, let's go to the spiritual world, and you eternally enjoy there.
Karmanevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbhur ma te sangostva karmani.
You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. So many people, if you ask them, you know Bhagavad Gita? Oh yeah, I know Bhagavad Gita. And they will read this verse. They say, this is Bhagavad Gita, karmanevadhikaraste. So, okay, this is one of the important instructions of the Lord, but not necessarily the essence of Bhagavad Gita, which many people consider it to be. Let's look at this verse. So this verse explains that karmani evadhika raste. So which means that it is my adhikar, it is my right to perform my prescribed duty. But Krishna is saying, Ma phaleshu kadachana. But you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Actually, they belong to the Supreme Lord. You do your duty and leave the fruit to the Lord. And then Krishna says, never consider yourself the cause of results of your activity. So if I'm doing an activity thinking that I will do this activity and I'll get the result, I'll do this activity and I'll get the result. So if you get the result, you will enjoy. If you do not get the result, you will suffer. In either case, we will get bound in the cycle of karma, action and reaction, action and reaction. So the moment I perform an action, there is a rope which binds me, a rope of reaction which binds me. So that is what Krishna is saying. Never consider yourself the cause of result of activity. So if I do an action, if I perform my duty without being attached to the result, then I am free from the reaction, because I am doing this duty as an obligation that I should do this duty. And lastly, Krishna is saying, never be attached to not doing your duty, because if I do not perform my duty, that is sinful. Like for example, Arjuna is standing here, he is a military man. He must, as his dharma, as his occupational duty, as his prescribed duty, he must fight this war. If he doesn't do that, that's what Krishna is saying, then it becomes sinful. So these are some of the very important insights, that we must work, but we must work without attachment for the results. So our adhikar or our right is to perform the duty, but we must do that without attachment to the results. Attachment to the results bind us to karma, to the cycle of birth and death. So this verse is understandable only by people in Sattva Gun or by devotees. Others cannot understand this verse, because that is their goal is not this. Bhagavad Gita is meant for those who want to solve all their problems of life, not just this problem or that problem. If you are interested in solving all problems of life, then Bhagavad Gita is for you. That is why Krishna is speaking these verses. So if we become attached to the results, we get bound by the karma, and we cannot avoid doing our duties also, because otherwise it becomes sinful.
So when we are talking about attachment to the results, so some simple example, that if I am going to my office, now all of us, we work for some money, right? Or if we are doing business, so we want some profit. If we are doing a job, we want some salary. Now if you are told that, okay, you come and keep doing your work, and first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth and 30th comes and no paycheck, and then again first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth and no paycheck. So what happens is, you are no longer interested. Because why? Because I am attached to the result. And that is
only
why
for the result.
I am working. Most of us, we work only for the money, because we have met people who have practically zero job satisfaction, and yet they are working. Why they are working? Because they know that this work will give them some money, and that money will give them some enjoyment. So that bhog tendency and the tendency of Aishwarya, material enjoyment. So what is happening is that the more I have the tendency to enjoy, the more I have the desire to come back to this world, or I want to be here because I want to enjoy. But if alternatively, so if I go, I mean, you will say, so what to do? I work and I don't take salary. So I'm not saying that you work and you don't take salary. What do you do is, when the salary comes, now that money can be utilized in the service of Krishna. How? With that money, we go and we buy groceries, we bring home groceries, and we cook nice feast for Krishna. We offer everything to Krishna, and then the whole family sit and eat prasad. What happens? The whole money is spiritualized. So you are still eating, I mean, materially speaking, you are still eating the same food. You are still eating maybe that paneer sabzi and chapati and dal makhni and some kofta and raita, whatever. But still you are eating externally, you are eating the same thing. But what has happened in between? You have brought Krishna right in the center. So then that is, you are not attached to the result. You are offering that result to Krishna. Or similarly, if you get your salary and you utilize that money for your child's education, and along with the education, you are also teaching him some values. You are teaching him Bhagavad Gita. So what is happening? You are perfecting your duty as a father, because you are giving the spiritual guidance to your children. So this is how when we are attached to the result, then we are bound to come to this material world, because then we have lots of desires. So to fulfill those desires, we need another birth. The moment I think, oh, my hair are falling, only if I had more hair, Krishna says, Tathastu, take one more birth, come again. The moment I think that, oh, I am so poor and only if I had two more bungalows. So, okay, Krishna says, okay, so you have done a lot of piety, come next birth and have those bungalows. So, more attachment to the result, and we are bound here, but more attachment to Krishna. Then, whatever we have, we would like to offer it to Krishna, and that is how the whole act becomes liberating. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhi asiddhayo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate durena hi avaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddhau sharanam anvichha kripana phala hetavaha.
Perform your duty equipoised, O Arjun, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. So here Krishna is directly prescribing Nishkam Karma Yoga, that we should perform our duty, but we should perform it in an equipoised way, that we abandon our attachments to either success or to failure. I must perform my duty irrespective of the fact whether I'll gain success or failure. So this is all with respect to our swadharma or duties towards our body. So we must perform them. We should not give them up, but we must perform them as a matter of obligation. Whether we achieve success or failure, that is in Krishna's hands. In that thought, then I will become completely peaceful and relaxed. Why so many of us suffer from anxiety? Because we are so much concerned and attached to that success at the end of our effort, right? And many of us, we develop not just mental anxiety, that anxiety manifests in the body. We get so many diseases. Like, for example, nowadays it's said that blood pressure and diabetes and ulcer, so many things happen in this body. Why? Because it's a manifestation of this attachment and stress arising from this attachment to success in all our endeavors. What is Krishna saying? You perform your duty, beta, and you relax. Don't worry about success or failure. Leave that to me. Like Krishna is telling Arjuna, I am telling you to fight this war. You just fight. Whether you win or you don't win, you die, others die, you don't worry about all that. Just do your duty. So in that, one becomes situated in yoga.
O Dhananjay, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness, surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. So now this is another classic definition of miser which Krishna is presenting on table, that those who want to enjoy their fruit of work are misers. So why are they miser? Because everything I am doing for myself, I'm not sharing with anybody else, I'm not offering it to Krishna. All I'm doing, I want to keep it to me. So that is how the miser works. So Krishna is telling that please do not act in that consciousness. Surrender unto me. So you do perform devotional service, and in that consciousness, surrender unto the Supreme Lord.
So here we see that Bhagavad Gita is revealing Bhakti Yoga in small droplets.
So the definition of real yoga: perform your duty without attachment. And then how to act in proper yoga: reject all abominable activities. Abominable activities, how do we know what is abominable activity? So whatever is against the principle of spirituality or Krishna consciousness is actually abominable. So Krishna is telling, reject all abominable activity and surrender to the Supreme Lord.
Material attachment is binding. Whatever we are attached to in this material world, other than the Lord and his devotees, is material attachment. So this material attachment is binding. Definitely we'll be dragged from this body into another body. Birth and death. birth and death. That is the only mantra we will be chanting. Otherwise, spiritual attachment is liberating. If you become attached to the Lord is eternally situated in the spiritual world, He will actually come, or He will send His Vishnu Dutas and He will take us to the spiritual world. The spiritual attachment is liberating.
Me and mine are the most dangerous words, as from here all miseries begin. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita duskrite tasmad yogaya yujyasva yoga karma sukaushalam karmajam buddhi yuktahi param tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmukta padam gachanti anamayam. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reaction, even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. So, Krishna is becoming a little more direct here, and he is telling, so what we were discussing. So, if a person is doing pious activity, that is binding because he gets a lot of piety and then he have to come to this material world. If a person is doing sinful activity, so the bad reactions waits for him and he is bound to this world. So both in case of good and bad, he gets a reaction. Every action has an equal reaction. So good activity, good reaction. Bad activity, bad reaction. But in both the cases, he has to face the reaction. So Krishna is giving a mantra here. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. And what is that? Devotional service. So he's telling perform devotional service and then you will get free of good and bad reaction. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead.
So this is a very, very significant point to understand. Everything in this material world is temporary, and we will see that we have some happiness, of course, in our lives, but then it is peppered with so much of misery. Every now and then there is some problem or the other. Sometimes the problem is created by us, sometimes we have not created a problem, but the problem comes upon us. Like when this pandemic started, I mean, it is a zoonotic infection which jumped from wild animals into the human beings. Why? Because there were certain set of people who were abusing nature's law. They were eating, wild animals, and that's how the COVID started. And many people may ask, "Arey, what did I do?" Some of us may be even vegetarians. We don't even touch meat, but why we have to suffer for somebody else's problem? Well, welcome to the material world. So it is not just that for us we suffer, there are others because of which also we suffer. So this material world is peppered with problems, and whatever happiness we even gain, that is also temporary. Right? The good job and the good wife and the good husband and good children and good parents, anyway, they will, one point in time they will leave us, right? Because everyone has his own lifespan. Otherwise, I will die and I will anyway lose them. So that's why, so people who are intelligent, they never plan for temporary happiness. Intelligent people plan for eternal happiness. And that is what Krishna is telling us. So that is why Bhagavad Gita is a book of becoming intelligent. After reading, understanding Bhagavad Gita, one becomes intelligent, one becomes wise. Our wisdom quotient increases. People talk about IQ. Bhagavad Gita is all about WQ, wisdom quotient. Wisdom increases, we become actually intelligent.
When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. So Krishna is talking here about how one has to rise above the flowery language of the Vedas. So flowery language of the Vedas, what is he referring to? He is referring to those sections which we said as Karma Kanda. So those sections which are offering you small little fringe benefits. So what happens is, again, no vyavasayatmika buddhi, we get distracted. So though in the name of spirituality, yet we end up getting distracted here and there. So it is not very easy. I mean, anything is difficult. Like if we are doing if we want to be an engineer or a doctor, we have to take exams, and those exams are tough. They are designed tough so that they test you in certain aspect. So similarly, the entire Vedic knowledge, it is not very easy that you start reading the Vedas and you will attain perfection. There also there are testing points. So these testing points create delusion. So what happens is we get illusioned ki, okay, let me do this small little thing and let me enjoy few years in heaven and then I will come back and continue my journey. So that is all disturbance. So Krishna is saying when your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of Vedas, which means we do not get distracted. And when a mind is fixed in trance of self-realization, then a person attains divine consciousness. So this whole 4 verses, first it is talking about freedom from good or bad reaction. So one has to work in a manner that I am free from good and bad reaction. How can I do that? By performing activities which are akarma. So I do not perform pious activities or sinful activities. I perform activities for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And that frees us from the good and bad reaction.
And then as a result, we become free from the cycle of birth and death. No more material bodies. Because we are eternal spirit soul, we are not actually this body, and all the trouble actually originates from the body and comes to the body. So once we become free from the body, free from the cycle of birth and death, there is eternal happiness.
And as Krishna says, become indifferent to Vedic rituals, which means don't get allured by these Vedic rituals. Focus on the divine consciousness only.
And that is the real samadhi. So many people talk about samadhi, but actually this is real samadhi. This is that divine consciousness.
So with this, we completed this particular section. The memory verses, or the most important and significant verses from chapter 2, which we have discussed so far, is verse number 7, 13, 14 and 20. For the next session, your reading assignment is from verse number 54 to 72. So next class, we will be completing this chapter 2. Looking forward to see all of you. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Hare Hare. We are sharing a Q&A link in the chat window. So if anyone has any question regarding this session, kindly place it there. You can post that Q&A there and we would be replying back to you within a couple of days over the email.
Yes. So whatever unlimited questions you can ask, you have that opportunity of getting answers to any and every kind of doubt that you may have. So just post your questions on Q&A link. Anyways, we are also available here.